And I thought I'd do an update on the Black Widow spider, but finding him might prove to be difficult. Let's see. Give me a second. Well, he's smarter than me, or she's smarter than me. She's not out in the sun. Oh, that's too close. There we go. I don't see her. But I saw her yesterday. She's eating a really large grasshopper, which is why I left her here, because, man, the grasshoppers really play havoc with your garden. But I don't see her. Let's see, I guess we could look at other stuff. See if I can find other things to video. I know I'm not as polished as some of the other YouTubers, and I don't really like to be on camera too much. And this thing about hate and jealousy, I'm not jealous of people's success. I think it's kind of cool that somebody that's only 28 or 24 is doing well for themselves and their family. And I could be doing a lot better, but we're working on it. I don't know why I went off. You know what? I might edit that. Nah, I'm not going to edit that out. I'll leave it in. Those flowers are Mexican hat. I don't remember the botanical. I remember the botanical on this, though. This is Monarda. I don't know the specific variety, but it's a good hummingbird plant. It's perennial, native. The Vitex tree is not perennial. I mean, it is perennial, but it's not native. Naturalized. It's actually native to India, China. Morning glory flowers are starting to close. I'm growing the morning glories and cypress vine on these dead trees. There's a variety that didn't do well here, so I've decided I'd utilize it as a trellis. And it's working pretty good for that. These are the stargazer lilies I planted for my mother in her fairy garden a couple years ago. I need to get in here and weed this fairy garden, and it might actually happen after I make this short video. The majority of the weeds in here, well, you got crabgrass, and crabgrass was actually planted in Texas on purpose because the cattle chewed all the native grasses down to the nub, so they went to South America and got varieties of crabgrass to plant for the cattle. And you know what happens when you do things like that? Hindsight's always 20/20. The crabgrass is out of control and now ends up in people's yards. Another thing you have in there is nutsedge, which has a rhizome that has a little nut on it. And when you yank them out of the ground, that little nut kind of explodes like a hand grenade and spreads more nut grass. So when you pull them, you spread more nut grass. And then, but I'm pretty sure the spurge is native. And I think there's a couple of varieties of spurge on the market now that are sold commercially. I've always thought the one that grew in the cracks of the concrete, it's kind of a purple color, was pretty. Somebody could hybridize that into a neat hanging basket perennial. Little butterfly there. Not sure, it might be a cabbage butterfly. There's a hair streak there. Where does that hair streak go? And it was on that little birdhouse. It's not a real birdhouse. Well, I mean, that's obvious, right? You get some carnations. That's a gray hair streak butterfly on the carnations. That was the butterfly that was on the little fairy birdhouse. And that's a lyre leaf salvia, or lyre leaf sage. And you've got your orange lantana. That's not native either. That's native to South America, and it's naturalized here in Texas. Actually, not far from here. There's a town called Lantana, and it's probably because there's lantana growing wild all over the place, I would guess. Then you have some vinca. And there's a medicine for breast cancer called vincristine, and it originally came from vinca. Vinca is native to Africa. A lot of people know them as periwinkles. That's one of the profusion zinnias. It's a sun plant. I have it in the shade because this gets sun in the afternoon. It's more mildew resistant. It doesn't get the fungus and viruses as much as the regular zinnias, taller zinnia varieties. That's an Angelonia. I'm not sure of the variety of that. My mother purchased that this year. It's salmon colored. It looks red in certain light. It's a little lower pedalum coming back. And the freeze knocked it back pretty hard, so I cut them to the ground. And I figured if there was anything left in the roots, that the lower pedalum would come back. Right now, it's not very tall at all. A couple inches. Here's some salsa Asian jasmine, some ardesia, some Algerian ivy. Algerian ivy is variegated Algerian ivy. All of this got knocked back kind of hard by the snowstorm we had earlier this year. These are the tall variety of snapdragon. And they make quite a bit of seed. The seed pods, when they turn brown and they dry, they kind of look like little skulls. I'm trying to get a picture of it. I don't really see it. I don't know if it's showing up. They make tons of little seeds, and you can collect those seeds and plant them. Or you can save them. I save them in Ziploc bags with those little desiccant packets that they put with beef jerky to keep the moisture out. Some varieties of canna. You got a red canna, a yellow canna, and a salmon colored canna. The little flower petals that are falling are from the Natchez crepe myrtle up above it. It's quite big. 20 years ago, these were tiny little trees. And I didn't live here then. That's some mums. And Abelia, variegated Abelia. Might be limelight. And I don't think it is. I'm not really sure of the variety. Some white mums. Another variety of that, I believe that's a crabgrass. Some impatiens. Impatiens look very similar to vinca. The impatiens prefer a little bit more shade than vinca. Impatiens, I believe, are native to Africa. I like them. It's a good shade plant. Nice variegated white caladiums. Some more chrysanthemums. That little vine there is one called snail seed vine. It's pretty invasive. It's probably planted by the birds. Makes a pretty big tuber underground. It's hard to get rid of them. There's another one that has green foliage with white silverish variegation. That one's called greenbrier and has lots of thorns on it. That makes a giant tuber nut under the ground. And that's how those come back. And some varieties of coleus. You got some little mimosa trees coming up in there, and some stargazer lilies. Some sword fern. And some hostas back in there. This bed needs a little bit of weeding. I have to really choose what I'm going to do when I work out here, because it's a pretty big yard. It's an acre. And you think to yourself, oh, I can get all this done in a day. Well, you could if you had help, but I haven't asked for help. It's another Abelia. This one is one called Kaleidoscope. And they were touted as giving a lot of leaf color. And my experience with them is they get more leaf color in the fall when it starts to cool off. You know, like most things. You know, the salvia, I'm not sure the variety of the salvia. It's a purple salvia. Perennial in a pot. I'm probably going to put it in that bed where that cable line is. I'm going to take that cable line out. Hung a hummingbird feeder here. Got a couple hummingbird feeders in the back. The red food coloring is not good for the hummingbirds. So I use sugar water. Mix it up with hot water. I don't boil it. And I change it weekly. You need to clean the feeders really well. There's a black sooty mold that collects on it. Consequently, it's probably the same black sooty mold that grows on honeydew that scales secrete. This is a Calibrachoa. This also plants my mother received from QVC. I believe they came from Roberta's Gardens. They came as little bitty plants, little 3-inch pots, and I potted them up in this hanging basket with good potting soil. They're kind of related to petunias. They're like a smaller variety of petunias. They tend to bloom a little bit longer than petunias, and they're just a little bit more drought tolerant than petunias. Petunias are pretty drought tolerant. Actually, the best way to kill a petunia is give it too much water. They'll tolerate getting a little drier than most plants. Petunia seeds are tiny, so if you collect the seeds off the little seed pods that the petunias make, you want to put them right on top of the soil and probably water from the bottom. And I save a lot of seeds. You don't have to purchase as many seeds if you save a lot of seeds. I'm probably going to start making cuttings on things as well. I just haven't started on that yet. There's a lot of things to do. The cardinal nest in this Philadelphus. Philadelphus is mock orange. I don't know if I can get a picture of them. I kind of don't want to disturb them. I tried to get a photo of them the other day. Yeah, I don't know if I can get a picture of them or not. It looks like the nest is empty actually. Maybe they've fledged already. That's weird. I don't know what to think about that. Got some elephant ears. I've got this is one variety, the one where the leaves hang down. I also have the other variety where the leaves point up. This is it here, and neither one of them are supposed to be cold hardy, but they both came back. There's some more of that snail seed vine. It gets little red berries and the birds like it, and it's on a fence, and so, you know, one of the best ways to get a bird garden is to put a pole up with a wire on it and potting soil below it. The only problem with that is that you'll get whatever the birds like to eat, and you could get snail seed vine, that'd be one. You might get some nightshade plants, that'd be another. You might get Sambucus, elderberry. You might get pokeweed, because they all have little black berries on them that the birds like to eat. And birds don't get poisoned easily because birds don't have stomach acid. They eat gravel and grit, and it's in their crop, and when they eat things, that gravel and grit grinds up the seeds and the berries that they eat. They do, however, kill birds. They use a product, an avicide, I don't know the name, but I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago they had these great quantities of birds falling out of the sky and nobody knew why they were dying. And the reason they were dying was they used these avicides on these corn and cereal crops to keep the blackbird populations down, like the grackles and the cowbirds and starlings. Starlings are not native, they were introduced from England. And although they sing pretty, they will take up every room in a purple martin house and prevent the purple martins from being in there. English sparrow is another invasive species that was introduced. I love all the birds, it's just there's a lot of species that are not native. Kind of went off on a tangent there. This was a thing my father made before he passed away. He was going to grow strawberries in it, and they were doing okay, but it was on the website he saw, they were hydroponic. You had to water them by hand, but what's cool about it is there's little native maple trees coming in there. There's a Drummond red maple, and there's some purslane, wild purslane. There's a sorrel, or what's the other name for sorrel? Oxalis. There's some oxalis growing in here. There's some spurge growing in here. There's this right here, that's the well, that's purslane there, and that's a spurge there. That's a spurge here. And little weeds. Snail seed vine. You can get rid of most of these weeds if you mix orange oil and 20% vinegar together and spray it on there in the sun. It'll kill it. Might have to repeat it. Some wild violets and some begonias. There's a few weeds in here I need to pull. You got some creeping jenny. That's a good Lysimachia. It's a good ground cover. It gets little yellow flowers on it. It'll grow in sun or shade. You got some sun strapleaf caladiums. Staghorn fern, and you got a polypody fern in there that's starting to come back. The freeze knocked them back pretty hard. They were in the garage, but the garage isn't heated. You got some Stapelia cactus, or what they call carrion cactus. It's actually not a cactus, it's actually a succulent. Cactus only occur in the American hemisphere. Stapelia is native to Africa. That's balsam. That's old-fashioned impatient. They also call it touch-me-not because when you touch the seed pods, it shoots the seeds out. That's a little tricycle that my mother got for her little shade garden. And you got some impatiens there, some corbels, another good hummingbird plant, a little tropical fern. I'm not sure of the variety. That came up in the ant plant. The ant plant didn't make it, but that's because the ant plants prefer to be a little drier because they're an epiphyte, which means the difference between an epiphyte and a parasite is a parasite, like mistletoe, will grow on the branch of a tree and take the energy away from it by sucking the life out of the tree. Epiphyte grows on a tree, but doesn't take, it just has roots that will latch onto the tree, but it doesn't take anything away from the tree. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't suck the life out of it like a parasite. It just actually attaches to it. Well, anyway, that is going to be it for this video. That's a little battery operated fountain and a bird bath. Y'all have a great day, and as I said earlier, God bless you from Texas.